Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day recap for Monday, October 12th. Theme of the day, I would say, number one, really good performance out of a couple of the FANG stocks, Apple, Amazon in general. Kind of the typical run into an event day. Really big performance out of those two names. For the day, Amazon was up 4.75%. It did hit an upside target. We'll talk about that on the Amazon chart. And then Apple up 6.4% today. Monster day. These names rallied pretty hard after the open too. So if you were focused on those names, you definitely got a chance to trade them. But that other than that, there was also just some really good performance by the Qs today. Of course, those names contributed a lot to the performance. But if we look at the overall movers for the Qs, a lot of Chinese internet names in there too. Well, a couple Chinese internet names in there too, which I was focused on going into the weekend. PDD was up 6.5% for the day. JD.com up 5.7% for the day. So 6.5 and 5.7, if I said that wrong. Sorry about that. Those names were strong. Also, Google had a nice day today, up 3.6% for the day. Couple of the chip names in there too. Nvidia was up 3.4%. You had Cadence, CTSX. That's a name that we haven't heard too much about. CTSX up, that was up over 4% today. You kind of wonder if some of the performance here is because of, a little bit of COVID worries and a move back into some names that did really well a few months back. But again, really, really nice performance by the Qs today. Everything else did fine. SPY finished up 1.6% for the day. IWM lagged on the day, but still finished up, over 0.5% for the day, and that added to some gains throughout the session. TLT non-factor as well as gold and silver. And the VIX did finish fractionally up on the day, but over the session down 2%. Really, I think what was kind of notable too was the VXN, which is the VIX for the Qs, did finish up on the day, but you have to remember how volatility works, not just to the downside, and it's not just the fear index, right? The VIX or the VXN. Remember, the VXN is the VXN for the Qs, but not just a fear index. It will move based on the magnitude of the move in the indice, not only to the downside but also to the upside. If it's moving fast to the upside, that you can also see an increase in those VIX instruments, which is what we saw today. Some different performers, as much as I'm sure Amazon and Apple, you're going to hear a lot about them today. But really, what was kind of interesting too was the the marijuana stocks continue to kind of move up. They were actually the best performer after the open, right? Again, I'm always looking to see what names are moving post open. Those did well today, as well as the banks did pretty well today. Remember, they've got earnings big earnings reports this week. XLK, we already touched upon that one, but that was strong over the day. What was weak today? Well, the clean energy stocks, they were weak today, as well as the solar stocks finished down 3.4% for the day. So a little bit of a reversal there for those stocks. And also what I would stress too, besides the performance in the individual names, but we had another Friday to Monday gap up day. Again, particularly in the Qs were strong, but overall, we're continuing to see that move, and I think that's very impressive considering that the last couple of weeks have been pretty strong, and then to see this big move in the Qs up 3%. So where could the Qs be getting to? Let's talk about the Qs, and we'll talk about Amazon and Apple, but there's a 300 spot 50 virgin point of control up here. Now again, we don't have to get there in a straight line, but that could be taken out. Amazon, what we talked about in the room was this virgin point of control that was sitting up here about 3,500. We touched there. It was actually a little bit shy of 3,500, but 3,494. We touched there and faded a little bit. Apple's a little bit different picture. Right, there is a virgin point of control, but it's up here pretty decently, 129.35. So if you're looking for some upside levels in the Qs and Apple, there they are. And like I said, Amazon did take out that virgin point of control. Remember, these things are important because these what's known as a virgin point of control is because it's a high area of volume that we have not revisited. So often acts like a gap, and we did revisit them. I started a position in PayPal today, and that did the same thing. And I said this when I entered the trade. I said, we're going to have to get through this 204 level. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that on the first attempt, so that was taken out. And that was one of the few things that I did today in terms of trades. For me, whenever we have these gap up days, I'm trying to follow basically, my rules and my playbook. And I'm a big seller into strength. Had I would have known, I took off some trades towards the end of last week too. Had I would have known that we would have moved up that much. It's funny because I usually do put on an Amazon trade on Friday, but Fridays typically for the last couple months have been weak. Friday was not weak, nor was Thursday either. So I just did not put that trade on. Amazon's been one of that Amazon call spread that I put on Fridays has been a big winner for me the last couple months. And of course, I did not put it on. I thought about it, and I'm like, well, I could maybe put it on Monday morning if the market pulls in a little bit. I just didn't get that opportunity to do it. So you could cue the losing horn for me on that one. One of the few times that I did not come in long some type of Amazon trade in my trading account, but it is what it is. What I did come away with, from Friday was I went long a lot of the Chinese internet names. So Billy. I took this trade off. I also took off PDD, which made a nice move today. I got out of this at 82.70. Now this name continued to rally. This thing finished all the way up at 84. So I was looking at this first 1 hour VPOC, which it took out. That was basically where I wanted to get out of the trade. But maybe we're headed to 89 in this thing. So very strong performance. We talked about this name on Friday. I was on Bloomberg and talked about this name as well, and talked about the whole China internet group, which did make it out to 52-week highs. So we're in breakout land for the Chinese internet names. So very impressive there. Also, JD.com was a standout name. This thing was up 5.7% on the session. Very strong. Also, another name that I've been long for months is this Cloudflare. So look at, this is pretty amazing, up 23%. It just kind of goes to show you right now with this market, if you have positive news, and like we saw Twilio about 2 weeks ago. These things can really rage. This thing finished right on the highs of the session. So very impressive, very interesting move that we saw in this name over the last month. Stopped on a dime. Came very close to taking out that downside V pocket at 32.70, and then it was basically up and to the right, 45-degree angle. Had a nice day on Friday too, 46, and now up to 57. So just tremendous. And again, we've seen this in a couple names in tech land where you have a positive announcement and you get a super strong reaction to it. So we'll see how this thing handles it today. There was a lot of call action today in the name, like opening calls. So that was part of the part of what fueled this thing to continue to go higher. But it will be interesting if that name goes higher as well. I think the name that I was thinking about last week too was Datadog. Had a tremendous day and move out of consolidation last week, and obviously back here too. So really strong. Just to finish up my trades, that's basically it. I went long some LI, which we saw. Speaking of China, this is a China another electric automaker. And we've seen calls a couple times in this one over the last few weeks. I traded this one about 2 weeks ago. Made a little bit of money on it, I think, on this little swing. And then it was kind of hesitating all week long to get out of the October value area. Again, newer name. That's the only history that we have. But let's see if this thing wants to continue to the upside. I did take one target in it. on that big green candle for the day, and then just got out of a couple other trades. Again, just cleaning up a little bit. The reason why I'm trying to do that and stay disciplined, even when sometimes discipline, keeps you out of some areas of the market when it goes kind of crazy like it did today. But I want to stick to my process and stay disciplined. Now that we've got earnings season basically starting tomorrow, but I think things will get a little bit more difficult, and that's why I'm kind of sticking to my trading plan and made sure I was a big seller on the open, and then I can kind of look for trades, right? So that's the plan. Whenever we have a gap open, I'm always a net seller. If I came in long, which I did, so stuck to the plan today. That's basically it. Looked for some other things. I think this Zillow is interesting here, right? It's coming back in. We've seen now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red bars in a row, and it's got to hold this 50-day moving average as well as top of value. So I don't, not to say that this is catching a falling knife, but I did start a position today. And if it doesn't hold the top of value, by the end of the day tomorrow, I'll have to get out of the trade. But it did take out one of these 1 hour VPOCs. The danger is this thing could go down to 97, right? If it doesn't, bounce at some point, hopefully tomorrow. All right, guys, that's it for today's recap. Again, quick recap for the day, just outlining, how I kind of played that. And, these days like this, because we did come in a little bit at the end of the day, best thing I could also say, and by the way, the video, of course, is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. But one of the things, too, is, don't be afraid to get away from the screens. If I wasn't managing a trading room, as soon as after the first half hour, if that wouldn't have got you to Amazon or Apple for the day, which saw Apple's just saw crazy activity on the call side today, but it will really keep you disciplined. Like if you go ahead and follow your plan, take off some trades, you can go and leave for the day. You have some flexibility if you're trading. Sometimes it's better to kind of get yourself away from the screens for a couple hours and then come back around lunchtime or a little bit after and see how the market's behaving. Look for some things to either to further take off or to kind of add to at the end of the day. But these days give you a lot of flexibility if you want to use it, right? These gap up days. So all right, that is it for today's recap. Have a great night, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow.